Before we get started, please remember that this video is for informational and educational purposes only. I am not a career coach or a financial advisor, and the information presented here does not constitute professional advice. Your career journey is your own, and you are solely responsible for the decisions you make. Always conduct your own thorough research before investing your time or money into any certification or career path. There are more than 500,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs in the United States right now. Let that sink in. That's enough people to fill every single NFL stadium on the West Coast, with thousands left standing outside. And the average salary for an entry-level position? It's hovering around $90,000. It's a staggering number, a life-changing number. It's the kind of opportunity that makes you look up from your soul-crushing retail job, your dead-end administrative role, or your grueling food service shift and think, maybe I could do that. But then reality hits. You don't have a computer science degree. You don't have 10 years of IT experience. You don't have a secret clearance from a 3-letter government agency. So you close the tab and the dream dies. Until Google came along. They dropped a bombshell on the world of online education. The Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate. The promise was almost intoxicating. Get job ready for a career in cybersecurity in under 6 months. No degree or prior experience required. Learn from Google's own security experts. All for a price that's less than a single textbook at a 4-year university. It sounds like the ultimate cheat code. The one-size-fits-all golden ticket for anyone and everyone who feels stuck and wants a piece of that 500,000 job pie. And that's why you're here. Because you have the same question that's burning in the minds of millions of people right now. Is it real? Can this one single online certificate actually get you a job? A real high-paying career-starting job in cybersecurity? Or is this just brilliant marketing for a piece of digital paper that hiring managers will laugh at before they throw your resume in the trash? That is the one question we are going to answer today. We are going on an investigation. We're not just going to read the course syllabus and tell you what's in it. Anyone can do that. We are going to put this certificate on trial. We will dissect every module, every project, and every so-called job-ready skill it claims to teach. Then we're going to step outside the Google ecosystem and into the brutal reality of the 2024 job market. We're going to look at what hiring managers, recruiters, and senior security engineers, the actual gatekeepers to these 6-figure jobs, are really looking for. And finally, the moment of truth. We will hunt down actual graduates of this program. We'll analyze their LinkedIn profiles, see where they landed, if they landed anywhere at all, and determine if this certificate was the key that unlocked the door, or just another expensive line item on a resume that went nowhere. By the end of this video, you will have a definitive no-nonsense answer. You will know if you should invest your next 6 months into this program, or if your time and money are better spent elsewhere. So let's get into it. First, we have to understand what exactly Google is selling you. What are you getting for your $49 a month? The program is hosted on Coursera and is broken down into 8 distinct courses, designed to be taken sequentially. It all starts with Course 1, Foundations of Cybersecurity. This is your 101. It's designed for the absolute beginner, the person who thinks a firewall is a brick wall that's on fire. It covers the absolute basics, the core goals of cybersecurity, the famous CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It introduces you to common threats like malware and phishing, and the different types of security professionals from analysts to pentesters. It's broad, it's foundational, and honestly, it's stuff you could probably learn from a few dozen YouTube videos. But it provides a structured path which is valuable. It's the orientation day of your new career. Then you move into Course 2. Play it safe, manage security risks. This is where things get a little more corporate. You learn about risk management frameworks like the ones from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is crucial. Every major company in the US uses these frameworks to assess and manage their security posture. You'll learn how to identify assets, analyze threats, and determine vulnerabilities. This course is less about hacking and more about thinking like a security executive. It's about learning the language of business risk, which is a surprisingly important skill for getting hired. Course 3 is where you finally get your hands on the keyboard. Connect and protect. Networks and network security. You can't protect a house if you don't understand how doors and windows work. This course is the digital equivalent of that. It's a crash course in networking. You'll learn about the TCP/IP and OSI models, what packets are, how routers and switches work, and the fundamentals of network security, like firewalls and intrusion detection systems. They introduce you to tools like Wireshark for packet analysis and dump. This is a critical, non-negotiable area of knowledge for any cybersecurity role. Next up, Course 4, Tools of the Trade, Linux and SQL. This is a big one. If you walk into a cybersecurity interview and you don't know basic Linux commands, the interview is over. Period. This course aims to give you that foundation. You'll learn to navigate the command line, manage permissions, and work with files in a Linux environment. On the other side, you get an introduction to SQL or structured query language. Why? Because a huge amount of the world's data, including security logs, is stored in databases. Being able to query that data to pull out the specific log entry from 2 months ago that shows a suspicious login is a superpower for a security analyst. After this, you get to the heart of the matter with Course 5. Assets, Threats, and Vulnerabilities. This builds on the risk management course but gets much more technical. You'll learn about asset classification, threat intelligence, and vulnerability scanning using tools like Nessus. This is the daily bread and butter of many entry-level security jobs. Identifying what you need to protect, and then finding the weaknesses before the bad guys do. Then comes the course that everyone gets excited about, Course 6. Sound the Alarm, Detection and Response. This is the what happens when things go wrong part of the program. You'll learn about security information and event management, or SIEM tools. Think of a SIEM as the central nervous system for a security team. It collects logs from everything: servers, firewalls, laptops, and uses rules to flag suspicious activity. You'll learn how to read these alerts, investigate incidents, and follow a playbook for response. This is where you learn to be a digital detective, piecing together clues from log files to figure out what happened. Course 7 takes a slight detour into a specific programming language. Automate cybersecurity tasks with Python. The word programming scares a lot of people, but in security it's becoming essential. You don't need to be a software developer, but being able to write simple scripts to automate repetitive tasks is a massive force multiplier. This course teaches the basics of Python, focusing on its application in security, like writing a script to parse a log file or interact with an API. This is a skill that can seriously separate you from other entry-level candidates. Finally, it all culminates in Course 8. Put it to work. Prepare for cybersecurity jobs. This isn't a technical course. This is the capstone. It's all about professional development. Google walks you through building a resume, creating a portfolio, and even practicing for interviews using platforms like Big Interview. They talk about networking using LinkedIn and how to navigate the hiring process. This is Google's attempt to bridge the gap between learning the material and actually landing the job. They cap it off by encouraging you to take the CompTIA Security Plus exam, suggesting that their certificate is a stepping stone to that industry standard certification. So, on paper it looks incredible. It seems to cover all the bases from high-level theory to hands-on tools, from technical skills to soft skills. It's an end-to-end curriculum designed to take you from zero to a seemingly competent, job-ready hero. But the real world is messy. The real world has picky hiring managers, biased applicant tracking systems, and hundreds of other applicants for every single job. So the question remains, is this curriculum truly enough to conquer that world? Is what's on this paper enough to get your foot in the door? To find that out, we have to look at what's on the other side of the fence. We have to understand the mind of the person who will actually be reading your resume. Let's call her Amanda. Amanda is a cybersecurity hiring manager at a mid-sized tech company. It's 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. She's already had 2 coffees, sat through a meeting that could have been an email, and now she's staring at a number. 173. That's how many applications she has for a single entry-level security analyst position. 173 people who all want the same thing. Her job isn't to find someone who's good enough. Her job is to find the best person as quickly as possible, before her other work piles up and buries her. She takes a sip of her now lukewarm coffee and clicks on the first application. Her eyes don't read, they scan. It's a human algorithm, honed by looking at thousands of resumes. She's not looking for reasons to hire someone. Not yet. She's looking for reasons to say no. A typo in the first sentence? No. A resume that's 3 pages long for someone with 2 years of experience? No. A generic cover letter that just says, "Dear hiring manager?" Definitely no. She spends, on average, 7 seconds on each resume before making her first cut. 7 seconds. Now imagine your resume lands in that pile. It's number 87. Amanda's eyes are starting to glaze over. She's seen the same buzzwords a dozen times. She clicks open your PDF. Her eyes dart from top to bottom. She sees your name. She sees your last job. And then she sees it. Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate. What does she think? Does a choir of angels sing? Does she slam her fist on the table and shout, "This is the one"? No. Her internal monologue is probably something like, "Okay, cool." And then she moves on, scanning for the next piece of information. Because here's the first brutal truth. The certificate by itself is not a magic wand. It's a line item. To Amanda, on her first 7-second scan, it's a signal. It signals that you're serious. It signals that you have some foundational knowledge. It signals that you took the initiative. But a signal is not a guarantee. Dozens of other resumes in that pile of 173 have the exact same signal. Some have the CompTIA Security Plus, some have other certifications, and yes, many have the Google certificate. So if it doesn't automatically put you at the top of the pile, what's the point? This is where we have to zoom out, because you're not just trying to impress Amanda. You first have to get past her digital bouncer. It's called an applicant tracking system, or ATS. Nearly every medium to large company uses an ATS. It's a piece of software that acts as the first filter for that pile of resumes. Before a human like Amanda ever sees your application, this robot has to give it a thumbs up. And this robot is not impressed by your fancy resume design or your compelling personal story. It is a machine that plays a simple game of keyword matching. The company programs the ATS with a list of keywords for the job opening. These are the skills, tools, and qualifications they're looking for. Things like SIEM, intrusion detection, network security, Python, SQL, Linux. The ATS scans your resume, counts how many of those keywords it finds, and then gives you a match score. If your score is too low, your resume goes into a digital black hole. Amanda never even knows you existed. It's harsh, but it's the reality of the modern job market. They have 173 applicants. They need a way to turn that into a manageable number, and the robot is the first line of defense. This right here is the first, most tangible value of the Google Cybersecurity Certificate. It's not about the brand name on the certificate. It's about the curriculum inside the program. The entire course is reverse engineered from the job descriptions of today's cybersecurity roles. When you learn about security information and event management, you're not just learning about SIEM tools, you're being handed a critical keyword that the ATS is looking for. When you work with Python scripting for security tasks, you're adding Python to your skill set. When you learn to write SQL queries to analyze security data, you're adding SQL. When you navigate the command line in Linux, you're adding Linux. The certificate systematically walks you through the foundational vocabulary of the industry. It's designed almost explicitly to seed your resume with the exact terms that these applicant tracking systems are programmed to find. Without it, you're guessing. You might read a job description and throw a few terms on your resume, but the Google program gives you the full starter pack. It ensures that when the robot scans your resume, it starts checking boxes. Check, check, check. Your match percentage goes up and you pass through the first gate. But remember, the ATS is just the bouncer. Getting past it doesn't mean you're in the VIP section. It just means you're inside the club. Now you still have to impress the person who matters, Amanda. Her pile is now down from 173 to maybe 30 or 40. These are the resumes that the robot liked. Now she's going to spend a little more time on each one. Maybe 30 seconds instead of 7. She's no longer looking for reasons to say no. She's looking for reasons to say maybe. She opens your resume again. She sees the Google certificate. This time it means a little more. She knows it got past the ATS, so it's not just fluff. It tells her you have a baseline understanding of the core concepts. But that's all it tells her. It tells her what you've learned. It doesn't tell her what you can do. And this is the single most important mindset shift you need to make. Companies don't hire you for the certificates you have. They don't hire you for the courses you've taken. They hire you to solve a problem. That's it. Every single job opening exists because the company has a problem they are willing to pay money to make go away. In cybersecurity, that problem might be, we're worried about getting hit with ransomware. Or we need to comply with industry regulations and we don't know how. Or our developers are building insecure code, and we need someone to help fix it before it becomes a disaster. Or for an entry-level analyst, the problem is often simpler. Our senior analysts are overwhelmed with thousands of alerts every day. And we need someone to handle the initial investigation, filter out the noise, and escalate the real threats so the senior team can focus on what matters. When Amanda looks at your resume, she is subconsciously asking one question over and over again. Can this person solve my problem? The Google certificate tells her you know the language of the problem. You know what a CM is, you know what a phishing attack is, you know the difference between a vulnerability and an exploit. But it doesn't prove you can actually stop the phishing attack or use the CM to find the intruder. Think of it this way. If your house is on fire and 2 firefighters show up, are you going to ask them where they went to firefighting school? Are you going to ask to see their certified hose operator certificate? No. You're going to look for the person who is grabbing the hose, running towards the flames, and actually putting out the fire. The certificate is what got them the job, but their ability to perform under pressure is what makes them valuable. Your resume is a promise of your ability to fight fires. The Google certificate is a foundational part of that promise. It's the equivalent of saying, I've been to the academy. I know what fire is, I know how the truck works, and I've been trained on the equipment. It's an essential, credible first step. It gets you past the robot and onto the hiring manager's desk. It tells Amanda that you're not a random person off the street. You've put in the work and learned the fundamentals. But it's also where the certificate's job ends, and your job begins. Because right next to your resume in Amanda's pile is another one. And that person also has the Google certificate. But below it they've listed something else. Something that starts to answer Amanda's real question. Something that doesn't just show what they've learned, but what they can do. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you go from being a person with a certificate to a person who can solve a company's multi-million-dollar problems? How do you prove you can fight the fire when you've never been in a burning building? The answer is you build your own burning building. You create your own fire. You manufacture your own experience. This is the single biggest differentiator between the certificate holders who get jobs and the ones who don't. The ones who succeed understand that the certificate isn't the finish line. It's the starting gun. It gives you the vocabulary and the foundational knowledge, but it doesn't give you the scars. It doesn't give you the stories. And in a job interview, stories are currency. Hiring managers don't hire certificates. They hire problem solvers. They need to be confident that when their network is under attack at 3 a.m., you're the person who can handle the pressure, not just recite a definition of phishing. So, how do you build those stories without a job? You create a digital proving ground. A personal laboratory where you are the lead scientist, the test subject, and the janitor. In the industry, we call this a home lab. And I know what you're thinking. Home lab? That sounds expensive. Complicated. I don't have a server rack in my basement. Stop right there. A decade ago, you might have been right. But today, you can build a powerful, sophisticated cybersecurity home lab for the grand total of $0. All you need is the computer you're watching this on, an internet connection, and the will to learn. Your most important tool is virtualization software. Think of it like a digital puppet theater on your computer. You can create entire virtual computers, we call them virtual machines or VMs, that run inside your actual computer, completely sandboxed and separate from your main system. Software like VirtualBox or VMware Workstation Player is completely free. This is your kingdom. You can create a Windows server, a Linux desktop, a vulnerable web server, anything you want. And the best part? If you break something, if you accidentally unleash a piece of malware that deletes the entire system, who cares? You just delete the VM and spin up a new one in minutes. It's the ultimate playground for consequence-free learning. This is where you'll go from a book-smart student to a hands-on practitioner. So what do you put in this digital playground? You start by building a simple virtual network. You need 2 key characters in your play. First, the attacker. This is your Kali Linux machine. Kali is an operating system packed with hundreds of cybersecurity tools for penetration testing and ethical hacking. It's the Swiss Army knife for the good guys. Learning to use the tools in Kali is like a mechanic learning what's in their toolbox. Second, you need the victim. You need something to attack, to defend, and to analyze. You can download pre-made vulnerable machines like Metasploitable, or an old unpatched version of Windows Server. The goal is to have a target that is intentionally full of security holes. Now you have your lab. You have the attacker and the victim. The stage is set. This is where you stop being a student and start being a security professional. You don't just read about concepts anymore. You do them. This is where you build the projects that will fill your resume and give you the stories to tell in an interview. Let's talk about 3 specific projects you can do right now that directly map to real-world cybersecurity jobs. Project number 1, become a security analyst by building your own CM. A CM, that's SM, stands for Security Information and Event Management. Sounds complicated, but it's not. Think of it as the central security camera hub for a company's entire network. It collects logs and alerts from all the different computers and devices and puts them in one place so an analyst can spot suspicious activity. This is the primary tool for most entry-level security operations center, or SOC analysts. You can download and install a free version of a professional-grade SIEM like Splunk, or set up an open-source version called the ELK stack. You then configure your victim machine to send its logs to your SIEM. Then, from your Kali Linux machine, you launch a few basic harmless attacks against your victim, maybe a port scan or a failed login attempt. Now, you pivot back to your SIEM. Your job is to hunt through the data, find the evidence of your own attack, and then write a report about it. What did you find? What was the attacker's IP address? What time did it happen? What technique did they use? Congratulations! You have just performed the core daily task of a Tier 1 SOC analyst. You didn't just read about it. You did it. Project number 2. Become a vulnerability manager. Every company on Earth is worried about vulnerabilities in their software. Your job is to find the holes before the bad guys do. In your home lab, you'll use a vulnerability scanner like Nessus or OpenVAS. Both have free versions to scan your vulnerable victim machine. The scanner will produce a report, likely showing dozens of critical vulnerabilities. But you don't stop there. Your task is to now research 3 of those critical vulnerabilities. Understand them. What causes them? How could an attacker exploit them? And most importantly, how do you fix them? You then go and actually apply the patches. You update the software, you change the configuration. Then you run the scan again. You document the before and after to prove that you successfully remediated the risk. This demonstrates a proactive, defensive mindset that is invaluable to any security team. You're not just a passive observer. You're an active defender. Project number 3. Become a digital detective. This is where you do some basic malware analysis. Go to a safe, trusted website like Malware Bazaar, which is a repository for malware samples that researchers share. Download a sample into your completely isolated sandbox virtual machine, one that has no connection to your home network. The goal here isn't to become a reverse engineering wizard. It's to be a careful observer. You can use simple free tools. Use Wireshark to see if the malware tries to make any network connections. Where is it trying to connect to? Use Process Monitor to see what files it creates or what changes it makes to the system. You observe, you take notes, and you write a simple report on its behavior. The malware sample attempted to contact a command and control server at this IP address. It created a file named virus.exe in this directory. This single project shows more initiative, curiosity, and technical aptitude than 90% of other applicants. Now, here's the most critical part, the step that ties everything together. You must document everything. Doing these projects is great, but if you can't show them to a hiring manager, they might as well have never happened. You need to create a professional portfolio. Your hub for this will be GitHub. Create a GitHub account and a new repository called Cybersecurity Portfolio. For each project you complete, you create a detailed write-up. This is your time to shine. Don't just post a screenshot. Tell the story. Use a clear, professional format. Start with an objective. The goal of this project was to detect a brute force attack using a Splunk SAM. Then detail the tools you used: Kali Linux, a Windows 10 VM, and Splunk Free. Then walk through your process step by step. Include screenshots, code snippets, and your analysis. What did you learn? What challenges did you face? How did you overcome them? This portfolio is your proof. When a recruiter asks if you have any experience with a SIEM, you don't just say, yes. You say, yes, I do. In fact, I have a project on my GitHub where I built a small lab environment to detect and analyze brute force attacks using Splunk. I can walk you through my findings right now. Who do you think gets the job? The person who says they read a chapter about it in the Google course, or the person who has a detailed, professional report of them actually doing it? It's not even a competition. This is how you bridge the gap. Your home lab is the burning building. These projects are the fires you fight. And your GitHub portfolio is the collection of news articles and commendations proving you were there, you fought the fire, and you won. You've taken the theory from the certificate and forged it into practical, demonstrable experience. You've created the very thing that every entry-level applicant is told they need, but are never shown how to get. You now have tangible proof that you can do the job. But having proof and getting someone to look at it are two very different things. You could have the most incredible portfolio in the world, but it's useless if it's buried under a mountain of resumes that all say the exact same thing. Google Cybersecurity Certificate. So, how do you make sure your resume cuts through the noise? How do you craft a LinkedIn profile that doesn't just list a certificate, but tells a compelling story of a proactive, hands-on problem solver? How do you get your portfolio in front of the right eyes? Let's break it down, because the answer to all those questions is the absolute core of what separates the certificate holders who get interviews from those who get ghosted. This is the part nobody tells you about. They sell you the certificate, the knowledge, the dream, but they forget to give you the keys to the kingdom. The keys aren't just the skills. They're the ability to communicate those skills in the language of recruiters, hiring managers, and the cold, hard algorithms that stand between you and them. Think of it like this: you just spent months learning to be a world-class chef. You can cook a Michelin star meal. The Google certificate is your proof of training. But a recruiter isn't going to taste your food. They're going to read your menu. Your resume, your LinkedIn, your portfolio, that's your menu. And if your menu just says, "I can cook," you're getting skipped over for the chef whose menu says, "pan-seared scallops with a saffron risotto and a lemon butter reduction." Specificity and storytelling sell. So let's start with the first gatekeeper, the resume. Your enemy here isn't a person. Not yet. Your first enemy is a piece of software called an applicant tracking system, or ATS. It's a robot. It doesn't care about your passion or your journey. It cares about keywords. Its job is to scan hundreds of resumes and filter out the ones that don't match the job description. Your job is to make your resume a love letter to that robot so it passes you on to a human. Here's how. Stop thinking of your resume as a history of your past jobs. If you're a career changer coming from, say, retail or hospitality, listing managed store inventory isn't going to excite a cybersecurity recruiter. You need to reframe everything. Your resume is no longer a history document. It is a marketing document for your future self. First, your headline right under your name. It is not seeking an entry-level position. That's passive. It's weak. Be bold. Aspiring cybersecurity analyst, Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate CM, and threat detection. See the difference? You're claiming the identity and immediately flashing your credentials and key skills. Next, the summary. This is your 30-second pitch. It needs to tell a story. Don't say motivated professional looking for a new challenge. Instead, connect your past to your future. Former retail manager with 8 years of experience in risk mitigation and incident response, now transitioning into cybersecurity. Leveraging a deep understanding of process and procedure, combined with hands-on skills in network analysis and CM tools, acquired through the Google Cybersecurity Certificate to protect and defend critical digital assets. You just translated, "I dealt with shoplifters" into incident response, and "I managed inventory" into risk mitigation. It's the same skill, different language. Now, the most important part for a career changer, the project section. This goes above your professional experience. You heard me right. A recruiter for a security analyst role cares more about the CM lab you just completed than the fact you were Employee of the Month at a coffee shop 5 years ago. Create a section called Cybersecurity Projects or Technical Projects. This is where you list the work you did in the Google course. But don't just list them. Use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Instead of completed a project on SQL injection, try executed a SQL injection attack simulation in a controlled lab environment, situation, to identify and document database vulnerabilities. Task: utilize custom SQL queries and security tools to bypass mock login credentials. Action: leading to a comprehensive report on remediation strategies, including input sanitization and parameterized queries. Result: that one bullet point proves you didn't just watch a video. It proves you understand the threat, you use the tools, and you can think about the solution. Do this for 3 or 4 key projects from the certificate. Packet analysis with Wireshark. Log analysis with a CM. A Python scripting project. This section is now undeniable proof of your hands-on ability. Okay, so your resume gets past the robot. Now it's on a human screen. This is where your LinkedIn profile comes in, because you better believe the second they're interested, they're searching your name. Your LinkedIn is not just a copy-paste of your resume. It's the behind-the-scenes documentary. Your LinkedIn About section is where you let your personality and passion shine. Tell your story. Why cybersecurity? What was the moment you got hooked? I've always been the person who takes apart the remote to see how it works. That curiosity led me from tinkering with hardware to exploring digital networks, and I was hooked on the puzzle of cybersecurity. My journey through the Google certificate wasn't just about learning. It was about confirming that this is where I belong, on the front lines of digital defense. Creates a human connection. Next, the featured section on your profile. This is your personal art gallery. Don't leave it empty. This is where you link to your portfolio. What portfolio? The one you're building on GitHub. Every single project you detailed on your resume should have a corresponding in-depth write-up on your GitHub. Let's be clear. A portfolio is non-negotiable. It is the single most powerful tool you have to overcome the no experience objection. You might not have professional experience, but you can have a professional portfolio. Go to GitHub, create a free account, create a new repository for each project. For that SQL injection lab, create a README file. In that file, write out the entire story. What was the objective? What tools did you use? Post screenshots of your commands of the results. Explain why it worked. Explain what you learned. Do the same for your Wireshark project. Upload the packet capture file. Show the filters you used. Highlight the suspicious traffic in a screenshot and explain why it's suspicious. This does two things. First, it gives a hiring manager concrete, visual proof that you can do the work. They don't have to take your word for it, they can see it. Second, it shows passion and initiative. It shows you're the kind of person who documents their work, who is organized, who goes the extra mile. These are the intangible qualities that get you hired. And finally, you have to connect all three. Your resume should have a clean, clickable link to your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile should have a prominent link to your GitHub portfolio in the featured section. It's a funnel. The resume grabs their attention. The LinkedIn tells your story. The portfolio closes the deal. This isn't just about listing a certificate. It's about building a brand. Your brand is proactive, hands-on, and ready to work. The certificate is the foundation, but the resume, the LinkedIn profile, and the portfolio are the skyscraper you build on top of it. You have to put in this work. This is the grind that happens after the course ends. And honestly, it's the part that matters most. Because a certificate proves you can learn, but a well-crafted professional presence proves you can do. So how do you prove it? How do you actually demonstrate that you can do the job? This is the million-dollar question. Because you're about to run headfirst into the single most soul-crushing, confidence-destroying obstacle in the entire career-changing journey. The experience paradox. You've seen it. You scroll through job postings, your brand new certificate practically glowing in your mind, and you see the words, entry-level security analyst. And right below it, in cold, hard text, requires 2 to 3 years of hands-on experience. It's a catch-22 designed to break your spirit. How can you get experience if every job that gives experience requires you to already have experience? It feels like a locked door with the key locked inside. But what if I told you that you don't need a company to give you the key? What if I told you that you can build your own? The single biggest mistake that certificate graduates make is thinking their learning journey ends when they get the PDF. The successful ones, the ones who get hired, know that's when the real work begins. They don't wait for permission to get experience. They create it. And they do it with the most powerful tool at their disposal, a home lab. This is your secret weapon. A home lab is your personal sandbox, your digital gym, where you can break things, fix things, and build the practical hands-on skills that employers are desperately crying out for. Sounds intimidating, but it's not. We're not talking about a rack of blinking servers in your basement. You can build a world-class lab for free on the computer you're using right now. All you need is virtualization software like VirtualBox or VMware Player. Both are free, and a willingness to get your hands dirty. This is where you bridge the gap between theory and reality. The Google course taught you the what and the why. Your home lab is where you master the how. So what do you actually build? Don't just spin up a random virtual machine. Be strategic. Build what companies use. Start by building a miniature corporate network. Create 2 or 3 virtual machines. One can be your attacker machine. Install Kali Linux on it. It's a free operating system packed with all the security tools you'll need. The other machines can be your victims, an older version of Windows, or a deliberately vulnerable system like Metasploitable 2. Now, you connect them all through a virtual firewall. You can use pfSense, an open-source enterprise-grade firewall that you can run in a virtual machine. Right there, you've just done something many IT professionals haven't. You've configured a network, set up firewall rules, and segmented your traffic. Document every single step. Take screenshots. Write down the commands you used. This isn't just an exercise. It's the first page of your project portfolio. But don't stop there. Now you need to see what's happening on your network. Install an intrusion detection system, or IDS. A fantastic tool for this is Suricata or Snort. You can set it up to monitor the traffic going through your pfSense firewall. Now, from your Kali Linux machine, run a simple map scan against your victim machine. Go back and look at your IDS logs. You'll see the alerts firing. You just generated, detected, and analyzed a potential threat. You've just performed a core function of a Security Operations Center, or SOC analyst. Again, document it. Write a one-page summary of what you did, what you observed, and what it means. Want to level up even more? Take all those logs from your firewall and your IDS and send them to a central location for analysis. This is what a SIEM, a Security Information and Event Management tool, does. You can build your own using the ELK stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. Or you can use a free version of Splunk. Setting this up is a serious project. It's challenging. It will take you days, maybe even weeks of troubleshooting. But imagine sitting in an interview. The hiring manager asks, "Do you have any experience with the SIEM?" And you don't say, "I learned about them in my course." You say, "Yes. I deployed a full ELK stack in my home lab to aggregate and correlate logs from my network firewall and host-based sensors. I built dashboards in Kibana to visualize malicious traffic patterns I generated from a dedicated attack host." Who do you think they're going to hire? The person with the certificate, or the person with the certificate in that story? That's one project. Here's another, even more direct one. Download and set up Security Onion. It's a free all-in-one platform for threat hunting and security monitoring. It comes preloaded with a full suite of tools. Your project is simple. Download sample malicious network traffic files. They're called PCAP files, and you can find them for free online by searching for Malware Traffic Analysis PAPs. You then replay that malicious traffic into your Security Onion sensor. Now your job is to be the detective. Use the tools within Security Onion, Wireshark, Suricata, Zeek to dissect that traffic. Figure out what happened. Was it a ransomware infection? Did someone download a virus from a phishing email? Write a detailed incident report. Start with an executive summary for a non-technical manager. Then provide a detailed timeline of the attack, the tools you used to investigate, the indicators of compromise you found, like malicious IP addresses or file hashes, and your recommendations for remediation. This single project is a near-perfect simulation of a day in the life of a Tier 1 SOC analyst. It is undeniable proof that you can do the work. You don't just list these things on your resume under a skills section. No, you create a brand new section called Projects, and you give them titles: Home Lab Network with SIEM Implementation, Malware Traffic Analysis, and Incident Response Report. Under each title, you write 2 or 3 bullet points describing what you did and the technologies you used. You put a link to your GitHub, where you've uploaded your detailed reports and documentation. This fundamentally changes the conversation. Your resume is no longer just a piece of paper that says you completed a course. It's a portfolio that proves you are a practitioner. It shows initiative. It shows passion. It shows that you are the kind of person who doesn't wait to be told what to do. You're a problem solver who builds their own solutions. This is the stuff that gets you past the automated resume filters and earns you an interview. It's the answer to the dreaded experience question before it's even asked. The certificate gets your foot in the door, but the projects are what you show them once you're in the room. This is how you go from being just another applicant to being a high-value candidate they're afraid to lose. So you've got the certificate, the polished online presence, and a portfolio of killer projects that scream competence. You are now officially a force to be reckoned with. But having the best product in the world doesn't matter if it stays on the shelf. How do you get that resume, that story, past the digital gatekeepers and into the hands of a real live hiring manager? That's where the art of the application comes in. And it's a game with its own set of unwritten rules. And the first rule of this game is that you're not playing against a person. Not at first. You're playing against a machine. It's called an applicant tracking system, or ATS. And it is the soulless digital bouncer standing between you and your dream job. Over 90% of large companies, and a growing number of smaller ones, use this software to scan your resume before a human being ever lays eyes on it. Its job isn't to find the best candidate. Its job is to eliminate the most candidates possible to save the hiring manager time. It doesn't care about your passion, your work ethic, or that time you spent all night troubleshooting a network issue in a lab. It cares about one thing: keywords. Think of it like this. A hiring manager posts a job for a cybersecurity analyst. They tell the ATS to look for resumes that contain phrases like CM tools, incident response, risk assessment, NIST framework, and TCP/IP. Your resume, which you lovingly crafted to talk about your experience monitoring security platforms and evaluating potential threats, gets submitted. The ATS scans it, doesn't find the exact keyword phrases it was told to look for, and instantly tosses it into the digital rejection pile. Game over. You never even had a chance. It's brutal, it's impersonal, and it's the single biggest reason qualified people never get a call back. So how do you get past this digital bouncer? You don't try to trick it. You give it exactly what it wants. This is the most critical, non-negotiable step of the application process. You must tailor your resume for every single job you apply for. I'm going to say that again because it's that important. You must tailor your resume for every single job. The days of having one generic resume are over. They died with the invention of the ATS. Here's the strategy. Open up the job description. Print it out, put it on another screen, whatever you need to do. Now get a highlighter. Go through and highlight every key skill, every tool, every responsibility they mention. Are they asking for experience with vulnerability scanning? You better have vulnerability scanning on your resume. Do they mention creating security reports? Your resume needs the phrase, creating security reports. You are literally mirroring the language of the job description and embedding it into your own experience. Now, this doesn't mean lying. You're not going to claim you have 10 years of experience with a tool you just learned in the Google course, but you are going to translate your experience into their language. The Google course had you use tools like Chronicle for security analytics. So if a job description asks for CM experience, you can and should list experience with CM tools like Google Chronicle to analyze security events. You're being honest, but you're also being strategic. You're using the exact keywords the robot is looking for. Formatting is the other secret weapon. The ATS is not smart. It's a dumb robot. It gets confused by fancy columns, graphics, images, and weird fonts. Your resume should be clean, simple, and boring. A single column, standard fonts like Arial or Times New Roman, and clear section headings like experience, skills, and certifications. Save it as a PDF or a .docs file. That's it. Don't get cute. The goal is to make it as easy as possible for the machine to parse the text and find those golden keywords. Okay, so you've mirrored the keywords. You've used a simple format. Your resume has successfully made it past the robot. Congratulations. Now you face an even more formidable challenge. A tired, overworked human with a stack of 200 other resumes on their desk. Studies show that recruiters spend an average of 6 to 7 seconds on their initial scan of a resume. 6 seconds. That's all the time you have to convince them you're worth a closer look. How do you do it? You pass the so what test. Every single bullet point under your experience needs to answer the invisible question the hiring manager is asking. So what? You didn't just use a CM tool. So what? You utilize CM tools to analyze over 1,000 log entries per day, identifying and escalating 3 critical security incidents. See the difference? One is a task. The other is an accomplishment with impact. Let's apply this directly to the Google Cybersecurity certificate. This is how you transform your certificate from a line item into a compelling story of your capability. A beginner's resume might say, completed Google Cybersecurity certificate. So what? An effective resume says, developed hands-on skills in key cybersecurity domains including, and then you use bullet points packed with impact. Let's workshop this. Instead of saying, learn Python for security, you write, authored Python scripts to automate security tasks, including parsing log files and checking for system vulnerabilities, reducing manual analysis time by 40% in lab environments. Instead of, studied networking concepts, you write, analyzed network traffic using Wireshark to identify suspicious activity, and demonstrated a thorough understanding of TCP/IP, DNS, and HTTP/S protocols. Instead of, familiar with risk assessments, you write, conducted risk assessments on hypothetical business scenarios using established frameworks to identify threats, assess potential impact, and recommend security controls. Do you see the power in this? You're not just listing what the course taught you. You're showing what you can do with that knowledge. You're providing concrete, quantifiable examples of your skills in action, even if those actions took place in a course lab. The numbers and the specific outcomes are what grab a hiring manager's attention in that 6-second window. It shows them you're not just a learner. You're a doer. You're a problem solver. Now let's talk about the most misunderstood document in the job hunt. The cover letter. Is it dead? No, it's just evolved. A bad cover letter that just regurgitates your resume is worse than no cover letter at all. But a good cover letter? A good cover letter is your secret weapon. Especially as a career changer. The resume is the what. Shows what you've done. The cover letter is the why. It's where you tell your story and connect the dots for the hiring manager. It's where you say, I spent the last 7 years as a high school teacher. You might wonder what that has to do with cybersecurity. Well, every day I had to manage complex systems, communicate technical ideas to a non-technical audience, and de-escalate high-stress situations. I bring that same patience, communication, and problem-solving mindset to security. I pursued the Google Cybersecurity certificate to build the technical foundation, and I was particularly drawn to the incident response modules because it's all about bringing order to chaos, something I've done my entire career. Boom! In 3 sentences, you've addressed their biggest concern, your lack of direct experience, and turned your past into a strength. You've shown them you're self-aware, motivated, and can connect your skills to their needs. The cover letter is your chance to bridge the gap between your past self and your future cybersecurity self. Don't just restate your resume. Tell them a story. Make a human connection. Because after you get past the robot, that human connection is everything. So your resume is tailored. Your cover letter tells a story. You've transformed your certificate into a portfolio of accomplishments. You hit submit. The waiting game begins. But while you wait, the work isn't over. Because getting the interview is only half the battle. Now you have to prove you can actually do what your perfectly crafted resume says you can do. And that means preparing for the technical interview, a place where theory meets practice, and where many aspiring analysts fall flat. And falling flat is an understatement. For many, the technical interview feels less like a conversation and more like a high-stakes interrogation under blinding lights. You've spent months learning the theory, you've polished your resume until it shines, and now you're face-to-face with a senior analyst or a hiring manager who's about to find out if you're the real deal. They're not just asking questions, they're stress testing you. They want to see how you think, how you react under pressure, and whether you crumble when you don't immediately know the answer. This is the great filter. It's where the Google certificate's knowledge is put to the ultimate test. Because knowing the definition of a CM is one thing. Being asked to look at a raw log file on a screen and explain what you see, what it means, and what you do next. That's an entirely different universe. So let's demystify this beast. A technical interview for a junior cybersecurity analyst role isn't about stumping you with impossible trivia. It's designed to test 3 core things: your foundational knowledge, your practical skills, and most importantly, your thought process. First, the foundational knowledge. This is where the Google certificate gives you a solid footing. They're going to ask you about the basics. Expect questions like, explain the CIA triad. What's the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption? Walk me through the 3-way handshake in TCP. Or what are some common network ports and the services that run on them? These are the bread and butter questions. They're the equivalent of a bouncer checking your ID. If you can't answer these confidently, you're probably not getting into the club. The Google course covers these topics well. It gives you the vocabulary and the conceptual understanding. Your job is to make sure you haven't just memorized the definitions but truly understand them. Don't just say port 22 is for SSH. Say, port 22 is the default port for Secure Shell, which is used for encrypted remote administration of systems, a much safer alternative to older protocols like Telnet that send credentials in clear text. See the difference? One is a fact. The other is a demonstration of understanding. Next up, practical skills. This is where we move from theory to application, and it's where the certificate alone starts to show its limitations. They'll ask you about the tools of the trade. Have you used a CM before? What kind? What's a Linux command you'd use to find all files modified in the last 24 hours? If I gave you a PCAP file, what tool would you use to analyze it, and what would you be looking for? Now, the Google course introduces you to these concepts. You'll have labs where you interact with Splunk, where you see Wireshark in action, where you use basic Linux commands. This is infinitely better than nothing. It means you won't draw a complete blank. But here's the hard truth. A guided lab where you follow instructions is not the same as being presented with a novel problem. The interviewer knows this. They know you've likely seen these tools in a controlled environment. What they want to know is if you've gone beyond the curriculum. This is your moment to shine by talking about your home lab. If you don't have one, build one. Now, it's non-negotiable. It doesn't have to be a rack of servers in your basement. It can be a couple of virtual machines on your laptop using VirtualBox or VMware. Install Kali Linux. Install a vulnerable OS like Metasploitable. Set up a basic security onion instance to act as your CM and IDS. This is your sandbox. It's your dojo. It's the place where you move from being a student to being a practitioner. When they ask, have you used Wireshark? You don't say, yes, in a lab for my Google certificate. You say, absolutely. In my home lab, I set up a small network and used Wireshark to capture the traffic while running in MapScan against one of my other virtual machines. It was fascinating to see the ARP requests, the SYN packets, and actually visualize the TCP handshake we learn about in theory. I even practiced following TCP streams to reassemble data. That answer right there does 10 times more for you than the certificate itself. Proves curiosity. Proves initiative. It proves you're not just passively consuming content. You are actively building skills. But the final and most critical part of the technical interview is testing your thought process. This is usually done through scenario-based questions. These are the open-ended, often intimidating questions that start with "imagine this," or "what would you do if?" For example, you get an alert at 2 a.m. A user from the accounting department, who is currently on vacation, has logged in from an IP address in a foreign country and attempted to download a large file of customer financial records. What are your immediate steps? A bad answer is a panicked, one-step answer. I'd blocked their account. Okay, but what then? You've stopped the bleeding, but you don't know how deep the wound is. You haven't investigated anything. A great answer shows a methodical, calm, and logical approach. It demonstrates that you understand the incident response lifecycle. You would talk through it step by step. You could say something like this: okay, first step is containment and analysis. I'd immediately move to disable the user's account to prevent any further access. I wouldn't delete it because that could destroy forensic evidence. I'd preserve the account in a disabled state. Simultaneously, I need to verify the alert. Is it a false positive? I'd check the source IP against threat intelligence feeds to see if it's a known malicious actor or a common VPN endpoint. I'd also try to verify the user's location. Can we contact the user or their manager to confirm they are on vacation and not accessing the network? Next, I'd start digging into the logs. I need to establish a timeline. When did the login occur? What other actions were taken? The alert said they attempted to download a file. I need to confirm if that download was successful. I'd check firewall logs, data loss prevention logs, and the server logs where the file was stored. I'm looking for the scope of the breach. Was it just this one file? Did they pivot to other systems? Did they install any malware? Based on these findings, I would escalate according to our company's incident response plan. I'd loop in the senior security team and potentially legal or HR, depending on the data involved. My role as a junior analyst is to gather the initial facts quickly and accurately, so that a larger response can be coordinated effectively. Finally, we'd move to eradication and recovery, ensuring any foothold the attacker gained is removed, and then lessons learned to see how we can prevent this from happening again. Maybe we need better geofencing on logins or multi-factor authentication. That is a home run answer. It shows you know the technical steps, but more importantly, it shows you understand the process and the priorities. You didn't just give a command, you laid out a strategy. The Google certificate gives you the building blocks for an answer like this. It teaches you about logs, incident response, and account management. But stringing them together into a coherent real-time strategy, that comes from practice. It comes from running through these scenarios in your head, on paper, or in your home lab. So when preparing, don't just reread the course material. Go to websites that list common cybersecurity interview questions. Write out your answers. Say them out loud. Practice articulating your thought process. Remember, it is perfectly acceptable to say, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a second." It's also powerful to say, "I'm not 100% sure, but my first step would be to check the documentation on X, and then I would investigate Y." Showing them how you would find the answer is often more valuable than knowing it off the top of your head. The technical interview is where your paper certificate has to become a real-world capability. The Google course opens the door and invites you in, but it's your own curiosity, your own hands-on practice in a home lab, and your ability to calmly articulate your problem-solving process that will convince them to let you stay. This isn't just about passing a test. It's about proving you're ready to be the person they call at 2 a.m. And that confidence doesn't come from a PDF certificate. It comes from the work you do when no one is watching. But even if you nail the technical side, you're still only halfway there, because they aren't just hiring a set of skills, they're hiring a person. They're hiring a person who has to communicate with a frantic marketing manager whose laptop is acting weird. They're hiring a person who has to explain a complex vulnerability to a non-technical executive without making them feel stupid. They're hiring a person who has to collaborate with a stressed-out development team to fix a critical flaw before it gets exploited. They're hiring a person who can stay calm under pressure, think critically when the sirens are blaring, and have the humility to say, "I don't know, but I'm going to find out right now." These aren't soft skills. That's the worst branding in the history of professional development. It makes them sound optional, fluffy, nice-to-haves. These are power skills. They are human skills. And in a field like cybersecurity, where the stakes are incredibly high, your human skills are just as important, and sometimes more important, than your technical ones. A misconfigured firewall can be fixed. A broken relationship with the IT team can poison an entire department for years. So let's break down the real human skills you need to land the job, and how you can prove you have them, even if you're coming from a completely different career. First, and most importantly, is communication. This isn't just about being a smooth talker. It's about clarity, precision, and empathy. It splits into two main arenas: written and verbal. Your first impression with any company will be your written communication. Your resume and your cover letter. A resume filled with typos or bizarre formatting tells a hiring manager one thing: this person doesn't have attention to detail. And in cybersecurity, a lack of attention to detail can be catastrophic. Your resume isn't just a list of things you did in the Google course. It's a marketing document, and the product is you. It needs to tell a story. The best way to do this is with the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. This framework forces you to turn a passive statement into a powerful story of impact. Don't just write, "Use Wireshark to analyze network traffic." That's a task. It's boring. Instead, frame it as a story. Situation: during a course project simulating a network intrusion. Task: my objective was to identify the source of the unauthorized activity. Action: I used Wireshark to capture and analyze the packets, filtering for suspicious protocols and identifying a pattern of communication with a known malicious IP address. Result: this allowed me to pinpoint the compromised machine, document the indicators of compromise, and recommend a firewall rule to block the attacker, successfully completing the simulation. See the difference? One is a chore, the other is a victory. You took action, you achieved a result. You can apply this to everything, even experience from a non-tech job. Were you a barista? Situation: faced with a long line of impatient customers during the morning rush. Task: needed to take orders accurately and efficiently, while maintaining a positive customer experience. Action: I developed a shorthand for common orders and communicated proactively with the person on the espresso machine to streamline the workflow. Result: we reduced average wait times by 15%, and I received a commendation for my customer service. That shows problem-solving, communication under pressure, and process improvement. That's a cybersecurity mindset right there. Then there's verbal communication, which is tested in the interview. This is where they find out if you can translate the ones and zeros into human language. One of the most common interview scenarios is being asked to explain a technical concept to a non-technical person. They might say, "Explain what a phishing attack is to me as if I were my grandmother." They're not testing your technical definition. They're testing your empathy. Can you put yourself in someone else's shoes and give them the information they need without overwhelming them? Don't talk about SMTP relays and email headers. Talk about a tricky letter from a fake bank, asking for their secret password. Use analogies. Make it relatable. If you can do that, you've shown them you can be a bridge between the security team and the rest of the company. The second power skill is your approach to problem solving. The Google certificate proves you can follow a series of steps to solve a known problem. A job interview is designed to see how you handle an unknown problem. They will ask you a question you don't know the answer to. This is intentional. They don't want to see if you're a walking encyclopedia. They want to see what you do when you hit a wall. The worst possible answer is, "I don't know." The second worst is making something up. The single best answer you can give is, That's a great question. I haven't encountered that specific scenario before, but here's how I would approach finding the answer. Then you walk them through your thought process out loud. First, I'd check the system logs to see if there are any error messages corresponding to that time frame. Then, I'd consult our internal documentation or knowledge base to see if anyone on the team has solved a similar issue. If that didn't work, I broaden my search to trusted online resources, like the official documentation for the software in question or specific forums dedicated to that technology. I'd be looking for the root cause, not just a quick fix. In that one answer, you've demonstrated critical thinking, resourcefulness, and understanding of process and intellectual honesty. You've shown them that you are trainable, reliable, and you won't panic when faced with the unknown. That is infinitely more valuable than already knowing the answer. The third power skill is demonstrating an insatiable curiosity. Cybersecurity is not a field you can master and then coast. The threats, tools, and technologies change every single week. A certificate from last year is already partially out of date. Your real value isn't what you know right now. It's your proven ability and desire to learn what's next. How do you prove this? You talk about what you do outside of the structured learning of a certificate program. When they ask, "So what do you do to stay current in the field?" you need a better answer than "I read articles." Get specific. I'm a big fan of the Darknet Diaries podcast because it gives a great storyteller's perspective on historical breaches. I follow a few specific security researchers on Twitter who specialize in cloud security, which is an area I'm really trying to deepen my knowledge in. And I've been spending a lot of my free time in my home lab, trying to replicate the latest vulnerabilities I read about on the Hacker News to understand how they actually work on a practical level. An answer like that lights up a hiring manager's brain. It shows you aren't just trying to get a job. You are genuinely passionate about the craft. You're not waiting for your boss to send you to a training course. You are taking ownership of your own development. This is the single biggest differentiator between a candidate who just completed a certificate and a candidate who is on their way to becoming a true professional. These three skills, communication, problem-solving, and curiosity, are the trifecta. They are what hiring managers are desperately searching for behind the keywords on your resume. The Google certificate gives you the technical vocabulary. It gives you the foundational knowledge to understand the problems. It gives you the raw material for your STAR method stories. But it's your job to build on that foundation, to practice explaining concepts, to get comfortable with not knowing, and to cultivate a genuine passion for learning that goes far beyond the final quiz of a Coursera module. Because when you're sitting in that interview, and they're deciding between you and another candidate who has the exact same certificate on their resume, they won't be making the decision based on who scored higher on the SQL quiz. They'll be making it based on who they trust, who they believe can learn, adapt, and communicate, who they can imagine working alongside when things inevitably go wrong. You have to prove that person is you. But even with the perfect resume and a flawless interview, there's another massive piece of the puzzle: getting your foot in the door in the first place. You can be the most qualified candidate in the world, but it doesn't matter if your application is lost in a sea of hundreds of others, filtered out by an algorithm before a human ever sees it. So how do you solve it? How do you become a real person instead of just another resume in the pile? The answer isn't a secret, but the way you execute it makes all the difference. The answer is networking. And I know when you hear the word networking, you probably picture some stuffy conference room, awkwardly shaking hands and exchanging business cards. Forget that. That's the old way. The new way is digital, it's strategic, and it's something you can start doing from your couch today. Your primary weapon in this fight is your LinkedIn profile. Too many people treat LinkedIn like a dusty online resume. That's a massive mistake. Your LinkedIn profile is not a resume. It's a sales page. And the product you're selling is you. The Google Cybersecurity certificate is a fantastic feature of that product, but you need to build the entire sales page around it. First, your headline. Aspiring cybersecurity analyst is not going to cut it. It's passive. It screams, "I'm looking for someone to give me a chance." Instead, you need to be assertive. Something like, cybersecurity analyst, security operations, threat intelligence, and CM holder of the Google Cybersecurity certificate. See the difference? You're not aspiring, you are these things. You're claiming the title. You're highlighting your skills and immediately showcasing your key credential. Next, your About section. This is your elevator pitch. Don't just list what you did at your old retail job. Translate those experiences. Did you handle cash? You have experience with asset protection and integrity. Did you train new employees? You have experience with security awareness and policy enforcement. Frame everything you've done through the lens of security. This is where you tell your story. After a successful career in customer service where I honed my problem-solving and communication skills, I've pivoted my focus to my true passion: protecting digital environments. I recently completed the Google Cybersecurity certificate, where I gained hands-on experience in. You're building a narrative that makes your career change seem like a logical, deliberate evolution, not a random leap. And of course, add the certificate to the licenses and certifications section. This is crucial. Recruiters specifically search for keywords like this. It's a digital flag that says, "Hey, look over here." Once your profile is a well-oiled machine, it's time to go on the offensive. You're not going to just sit there and wait for people to find you. You are going to strategically connect with the right people. Who are the right people? 3 groups. 1. Recruiters at companies you want to work for. Specifically, technical recruiters. You can find them by searching technical recruiter at company name. 2. People who have the job you want. Search for cybersecurity analyst at company name. These are your future peers. They know what the day-to-day is like and what skills are actually important. 3. Hiring managers. These are a little harder to find, but often their titles are cybersecurity manager, director of security operations, or SOC lead. Now, here is the most important part of this entire strategy. Do not just click the connect button. That sends a generic, lazy request that will be ignored 99% of the time. You must always add a personalized note. This is your first impression. For a recruiter, it's simple. Hi, name. I'm a cybersecurity professional with a focus on your skill. I'm a huge admirer of company's work in the security space and am actively seeking new opportunities. I'd love to connect and learn more about your team. For a future peer, it's even more powerful. Hi, name. I came across your profile and was really impressed by your background in threat analysis. I'm also starting my journey in cybersecurity, having just completed the Google certificate, and would love to connect and follow your work. It's short, it's respectful, it's personalized, and it shows you've actually looked at their profile. This simple step will skyrocket your connection acceptance rate. But connecting is just step 1. The real magic is in the next step: the informational interview. This is the single most powerful underutilized job-seeking tool on the planet. The goal of an informational interview is not to ask for a job. I repeat, you are not asking for a job. The goal is to ask for advice. People love giving advice. It makes them feel smart and helpful. After connecting with someone who has the job you want, wait a few days, then send a message like this: Hi, name. Thanks again for connecting. I'm really trying to break into the cybersecurity field, and I see you've built a great career at company. I know you're incredibly busy, but I was wondering if you might have 15 minutes in the coming weeks for a brief virtual coffee chat? I'd love to ask you a few questions about your experience and any advice you might have for someone starting out. What's the worst that can happen? They say no or they ignore you. Who cares? But many will say yes. And when they do, you need to be prepared. This is your chance. Have a list of smart questions ready. Not "Can you get me a job?" but questions like, what does a typical day look like for you in your role? What are the biggest challenges your team is facing right now? What skills do you think are most important for a junior analyst to have? I've been working on projects involving Wireshark and SIEM since finishing my Google cert. What other technologies would you recommend I get familiar with? And the killer final question: based on our conversation, is there anyone else you think it would be valuable for me to talk to? You see what's happening here? You're not a faceless applicant anymore. You're a real ambitious person who is actively learning and seeking advice. You're building a relationship. And at the end of that 15-minute call, you've accomplished 3 things. 1. You've gained invaluable insider information about the company and the role. 2. You've made a professional contact who now knows your name. And 3. You've set yourself up for the ultimate prize, the referral. Because after that call, when a junior analyst position opens up on their team, who do you think they're going to think of? The random resume in the pile? Or the sharp, proactive person who reached out, asked intelligent questions, and showed genuine passion for the field? Let me tell you a quick story about someone we'll call Sarah. Sarah finished the Google cert, had a decent resume, but was getting nothing but automated rejection emails. She was throwing her application into the void and getting nothing back. So she changed her strategy. She targeted 5 companies she wanted to work for. She optimized her LinkedIn. She found 3 security analysts at each company and sent them personalized connection requests. 7 of them accepted. She then sent her informational interview request to those 7. 4 of them agreed to a 15-minute chat. She had 4 amazing conversations, learned a ton, and sent a thank you note to each one. 2 weeks later, one of those analysts, let's call him David, messaged her on LinkedIn. Hey Sarah, a junior SOC analyst role just opened up on my team. I thought of you. If you're interested, send me your resume, and I'll pass it directly to the hiring manager. That is the cheat code. That is how you bypass the algorithm. Sarah's resume didn't go into the black hole with 500 others. It landed in the hiring manager's inbox with a note from a trusted team member that said, "You should talk to this person." She got an interview the next week. The Google certificate is your entry ticket. Gets you in the game. But networking is how you play to win. It's the multiplier for all your other efforts. All the labs, all the projects, all the studying. Networking is what ensures a human being actually sees them. It turns you from a piece of paper into a person. So we have the certificate for the knowledge, the home labs for the skills, the personal brand for the visibility, and the networking strategy to get our foot in the door. It's a complete system. But this all leads to the final billion-dollar question. After all this work, after all this effort, is it actually worth it? Can this certificate, combined with this strategy, really beat out a 4-year computer science degree or a candidate with years of prior IT experience? We're going to put it all together and deliver the final verdict. So let's be brutally honest about this 3-way showdown. In one corner, you have the computer science graduate. For years, tens of thousands of dollars, and a piece of paper that says they understand the deep theory. They know Big O notation, they've compiled kernels, and they've built data structures from scratch. They are the traditionally anointed candidate. HR systems love them. Their resume sails through the initial keyword filters. In the second corner, you have the grizzled veteran. The person with 5 years of IT experience, maybe as a network administrator or a sysadmin. They've seen things. They've troubleshot a down server at 3 a.m. They've dealt with real-world corporate politics. They haven't just read about Active Directory. They've managed it for 1,000 users. They represent proven, low-risk reliability. And then there's you, the Google certificate holder, the career switcher, the upskiller, the underdog. You don't have the 4-year degree. You don't have the 5 years of paid experience. You have a certificate that took you 6 months to earn, a home lab you built in your spare room, and a portfolio of projects you documented on GitHub. On paper, it looks like a mismatch. It looks like you're bringing a knife to a gunfight. But here's the secret that the cybersecurity industry doesn't always advertise. The fight isn't won on paper. It's won in the interview. It's won by demonstrating capability. Let's break down how a smart hiring manager, the one you actually want to work for, sees these 3 candidates. The CS grad? They have immense potential. But their knowledge is often purely academic. Ask them to triage an alert in a real CM like Splunk or Sentinel and they might freeze. Their hands-on skills with the actual tools used on the job are often zero. They've learned how a protocol should work in a perfect world, not how it breaks in the real world. The hiring manager sees them as a long-term investment. A smart, capable person who will need 6 to 12 months of intensive, on-the-job training before they're truly effective. They're a block of marble that needs to be sculpted. The experienced IT pro? They're a fantastic candidate. They know the corporate environment. But are they passionate about security? Or are they just looking for the next rung on the IT ladder? Their experience is valuable, but it might be in a silo. A network admin knows networks inside and out, but they might not know the first thing about threat intelligence, malware analysis, or incident response procedures. They're a known quantity, a safe bet, but they might lack the specific security-first mindset the manager is looking for. And then they look at your resume, the one with the Google Cybersecurity certificate. First, they might be skeptical. Another cert chaser? But then they see the link to your GitHub. They click it, and they don't just see a list of completed projects. They see a meticulously documented home lab. They see your TryHackMe profile with a 500-day streak. They see a blog post you wrote where you configured a network IDS, generated malicious traffic, and then walked through step-by-step how you detected and analyzed the alerts. They see a Python script you wrote to automate the process of checking IP addresses against a threat intel feed. Suddenly, you are not the underdog. You have transformed yourself from a person with a certificate into a person who does cybersecurity. The CS grad can talk about theory. The IT vet can talk about their past job. You can show them right now that you can do the work. You've proven you have the single most important skill in this entire industry. the ability and the burning desire to learn on your own. You didn't wait for a professor to give you an assignment. You didn't wait for a boss to open a ticket. You found a problem, you learned the tools, and you built a solution out of sheer curiosity and drive. So, can this certificate beat a 4-year degree? Let's deliver the verdict. If you are both applying for a junior analyst role at a massive old-school Fortune 100 company with a rigid non-technical HR department, the CS degree will probably win 9 times out of 10. Their system is built to recognize degrees as the primary signal of competence. It's a sad, outdated reality, but it's a reality nonetheless. But that is an incredibly narrow view of the job market. For the thousands of other companies, the agile tech companies, the managed security service providers, the small and medium-sized businesses with lean security teams, the game is completely different. These companies are not hiring a piece of paper. They are hiring a problem solver. They need someone who can come in and contribute, not someone who needs their hand held for a year. In that arena, can the Google certificate holder with a killer portfolio beat the fresh CS grad with no practical experience? Absolutely. Every single day of the week and twice on Sunday, because you have already proven you can do the job. Your portfolio isn't just a collection of projects. It's a body of work. It is, for all intents and purposes, your experience. You've demonstrated the exact skills they're hiring for. What about the experienced IT pro? This is a tougher matchup, but you still have a powerful edge, specialization and passion. The IT pro is transitioning into security. You are starting with a security-first mindset. You have been immersed in the language, tools, and procedures of a security operations center from day one of your studies. You might lose out on roles that require deep infrastructure knowledge, but you will be a stronger candidate for roles that are purely focused on threat detection and response. So the final answer to the question, can Google's cybersecurity certificate get you a job? Is an emphatic, unequivocal yes, but with a giant flashing neon sign of a caveat. The certificate itself doesn't get you the job. The piece of paper is almost worthless on its own. The certificate is the key that starts the engine. It is the structured curriculum that guides you through the fog of war and tells you what you need to learn. It gives you the vocabulary to speak the language and the fundamental concepts to understand the battlefield. But you still have to drive the car. You have to take that knowledge and do something with it. You have to build the lab. You have to complete the projects. You have to get your hands dirty with the tools. You have to document your journey. You have to become the person who doesn't just say, I learned about CMs, but who says, let me show you the dashboard I built to monitor my home network, and let me walk you through the custom alert rule I wrote to detect anomalous DNS queries. This path isn't for everyone. If you think you can passively watch some videos for a few months and have recruiters knocking down your door with 6-figure offers, you are going to be bitterly disappointed. This industry has a high barrier to entry for a reason. We are protecting critical data, infrastructure, and people's livelihoods. The work matters and it requires dedication. But for the person who is hungry, who is a lifelong learner, who is willing to put in the effort beyond the curriculum, the career switcher stuck in a dead-end job, the veteran looking for a new mission, the young person who doesn't have the time or money for a traditional degree, this certificate is more than just a viable path. It is a revolution. It is the democratization of opportunity in one of the most important and fastest-growing fields on the planet. The certificate, combined with the strategy of building, documenting, and networking, doesn't just put you in the game. It allows you to compete and, in many cases, to win. It proves that in the world of cybersecurity, what you can do will always be more important than where you learn to do it. The industry is desperate for passionate, capable people. The door is open. The certificate gives you the map. The rest is up to you.